Remember when Macaulay Culkin had careless parents in yet another film?
Evil demons, wretched monsters, haunted houses.
Let's go back.
Tamagotchi,
of Y2K.
The year is 1994. Nelson Mandela becomes the first black president of South Africa. Friends premieres on NBC, and 3 athletes have the worst moments of their careers. O.J. Simpson in his infamous white Bronco chase, Nancy Kerrigan is attacked in Detroit by the equivalent of the Three Stooges, and probably worst of all, Michael Jordan attempts baseball. Ace of Base introduces us all to the sign. The top grossing films of the year are The Lion King and Forrest Gump.
You ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dane.
However, on November 23rd, a little film called The Pagemaster is released in theaters. The Pagemaster goes up against Tim Allen's The Santa Claus and absolutely bombs. With a budget of $34 million, it grosses only $13.7 million back. Roger Ebert gives it a 1.5 and called it sad and dreary. But he also said The Thing was a disappointing barf bag movie, so what did he know? Fox sunk a lot of money into this film and believed in it enough to develop trading cards, books, and even a video game for Sega. When I started working on this video, I didn't know what it would be. This was a movie I only vaguely remember watching as a kid. Certain scenes stuck with me throughout my life, and I'll talk about those later in the video. However, we sometimes look back at films with a certain nostalgic fondness, only to revisit them and realize it wasn't as good as we remembered. When we were kids, movies were just movies. I didn't know the difference between a bad and good film. I was just happy to be watching one. I expected The Pagemaster to be terrible based on the terrible reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, but in rewatching it, I was delightfully surprised and couldn't understand all the hate it got. The one thing I would say is, it could have been longer. Everything seemed to be rushed, which was weird because it came out at just over 70 minutes. The Pagemaster is a kids movie that involves live action, hand-drawn animation, and CGI. One of the first films to do so. The cast is incredible, with Macaulay Culkin as Richard, who would play another Richard that same year in another film I loved as a kid, Christopher Lloyd as the Pagemaster, Patrick Stewart as Adventure, Frank Welker as Horror, Leonard Nimoy as Dr. Jekyll, and Whoopi Goldberg as Fantasy, the same year she voiced Shenzi in The Lion King. So join me as I revisit this 90s hidden gem known as the Pagemaster. Richard is woken up abruptly in the middle of the night and runs to his parents' bedroom where he overhears his father talking shit about him.
Blair, he brought in a medical journal. Nobody wanted to play after that. And now I'm building him a tree house. In a tree he refuses to climb.
Whoa, I'm sorry, but you know your kid has a fear of heights, so you decide to build him a treehouse. That's on you. The next day, Richard's dad asks him to bring up a bucket of nails to him in the treehouse. His dad rolls his eyes and is like, nerd. And then Richard attempts to murder his dad. Now it's framed as a mistake, but we all know how savvy he is with this kind of thing from 4 years earlier. His dad asks him to go to the hardware store and buy him some nails, despite having an entire bucket full of them. Richard comes out of the garage in his pimped out safety bicycle and heads to the hardware store. But uh-oh, a storm hits, and Richard has to take refuge in a nearby library. Mr. Dewey appears from inside the library. Get it? Mr. Dewey? Like the Dewey Decimal System? Come on, that's good writing.
Welcome to the library, young man. Don't tell me you're here for a special book.
Watching this scene, I couldn't help but think this is the same way Marty McFly became friends with Doc Brown. But I digress. Mr. Dewey gets Richard a library card, but he explains he's only there because of the storm, and wants to use the public phone. You see, kids, this is a time when not everyone had cell phones. Instead, you had to wander into somewhere with a creepy man and ask him to use the phone. Ah, the 90s. On his way to the phone, Richard sees a large mural on the ceiling, and he slips and falls down. This is the one scene I remember most from The Pagemaster. It always caught my attention when I was young, probably because of all the colors. It reminded me of this scene from Hook. The paint turns into a dragon and turns everything, including Richard, into an animation, where he meets the Pagemaster, who says he'll help him out, but first he must face 3 tests before he gets home.
Horror, adventure, and fantasy.
First up, he meets Adventure, who gets excited when he finds out Richard has a library card.
A library card? Oh, begging your pardon, lad, I didn't know you was a customer.
And says that he'll help him get out of there if he promises to take him with him. After accidentally opening up 20,000 leagues under the sea, the two are chased by a giant squid. Okay, probably not the best clip of animation they could have left in the film. Fantasy comes to the rescue. She says she'll help Richard out as well, but only if Richard takes her out as well. Damn, what's Mr. Dewey doing all night that all these books want to leave so badly? Adventure and Fantasy don't get along, but they don't have time to argue because a hound from the Hounds of Baskerville breaks out of its book and chases them into the horror section. They find the sign for the exit, but the only way out is to go through the haunted house. The gang meets Horror, a book who's a few pages short of a full story, if you know what I mean.
Through the house?
He agrees to navigate them through the house, but only if, you guessed it, he can leave with Richard as well.
Hello there, Mr.
Dr. Jekyll.
Uh-oh, shit's about to go down. Dr. Jekyll drinks the concoction that turns him into Mr. Hyde, and he tries to kill them all. Oh no, Horror Book is stuck and they all look to Richard for help. Hold on, Fantasy. You could turn your wand into a blowtorch this entire time, and the first thing you do when your friend is about to die is ask a 12-year-old for help? They eventually escape, but Richard still can't face his fear of heights, and Adventure sends them to the burn unit with this line.
Come on, boy! Even books have spines.
On to the land of adventure. The first person they encounter is Captain Ahab, which means Moby Dick shouldn't be too far behind. Horror and Fantasy don't make it out, and we have an emotional moment. We'll probably never see them again. Richard and Adventure are on their own and are attacked by sharks, but it's okay because the 2 sketchy-looking fellas in a boat show up to help. Oh no, it's Long John Silver, the famous fast food franchise owner.
There she be, mateys! Treasure Island!
They get to Treasure Island, but the pirates form a mutiny against Long John Silver. Chaos breaks loose, but it's okay, because Horror and Fantasy are there to save the day. Richard finally nuts up and gets Long John Silver to leave at the point of his sword. Adventure says something dickish to Horror and he runs off, but it's okay because Adventure finds the library card. He soon finds Horror tied up like in Gulliver's Travel, and the 2 become instant friends, because why not?
Thanks to my friend here.
Get off me!
Now that they have the library card, they can continue on to Fantasy. And what is waiting for them there? Maybe a brave knight, or a friendly giant, or Jennifer Lawrence in the film Red Sparrow. No, it's a fucking dragon. Fantasy sends a magic carpet from Arabian Nights to help Richard. Then Adventure and Fantasy have a moment. Oh damn, someone's fantasy's coming true. Richard makes it to the exit, but he has to decide whether to leave or save his new friends. I'll bet you won't be able to guess what he does next. Okay, yeah, he saves his friends. Richard takes a sword and a helmet off a dead knight because he doesn't need it anymore. But Richard proves to be as good of a knight as Martin Lawrence in Black Knight, because he's swallowed by the dragon. Inside the dragon, Richard finds Fantasy's wand, but it's broken. He remembers what the Pagemaster said, to look to the books for help.
Jack and the Beanstalk. Yeah, this is it!
Richard rides that bad boy out of the dragon, grabs his friends, and heads for the exit. The Pagemaster is waiting at the exit, where Richard promptly tells him to fuck off in a very PG way.
If I had brought you here from the start, you never would have found the courage to face your own fears.
Boom, lesson learned. Richard is sent back to the real world. He runs off quickly but comes back to take the 3 books with him. Does this mean he's just gonna steal them? I mean, I haven't been to a library in a while, but you have to return them at some point, don't you? Not a great lesson for kids. We all know if you're gonna steal from the library, you need to use a fake name on your library card. Rookie mistake. Richard's so excited he strips off his safety stuff from his bike and does a sweet jump. A helmet still might have been a good idea here, but whatever. His parents arrive home after looking for him, and guess where he is? That's right, he's asleep in the treehouse. He faced his fear of heights, and his parents are like, let's let him sleep here tonight. I'll tell you, if I was gone all day without calling home, my parents wouldn't let me sleep. They'd probably beat my ass. Also, Richard's mom pulls a dick move here by taking off his glasses, and then she takes them with her inside. He's in a tree, he needs to see them to get back down when he wakes up. The parents go inside for... they haven't had time to themselves in quite a while. I think you know where I'm going with this. They're gonna finish that puzzle they've been working on for years, obviously. And then they're gonna get busy. Cleaning the garage. And then they'll probably have some time to bang. Because Dad has a whole different kind of fantasy book hidden under the mattress. It ends with the shadows of the animated books bantering, and then credits roll. I really enjoyed rewatching this movie. I know this won't be the case for all films I revisit from my childhood, but I truly believe this is a hidden gem that critics got wrong. It's a great way to introduce kids to classic literary characters while making it fun. It may even spark them to head to the library and get one of these books themselves. One thing I didn't notice as a kid was all the different book references scattered throughout. When they arrive at Dr. Jekyll's house, a raven flies over and says this. While in fantasy, Mother Goose can be seen flying over, Humpty Dumpty's sitting on a wall, and they walk down a yellow brick road. I also love horror's classic scream. This movie does have its flaws, like the runtime, and the CGI part doesn't really hold up. This is a movie I could get behind a remake or a sequel of, because it has a lot of potential. Pagemaster is a really good 90s animation film that had the unfortunate task of coming out the same year as one of the greatest animation films of all time, The Lion King. But it's a good family film to re-watch, or share with your kids. Thanks for watching.